All right. Thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. I saw a lot of familiar names and some new folks as well, so welcome. This is the annual NIMAC training for accessible media producers. I am the NIMAC manager, Liz Schaller, and I'm joined this afternoon by Alexa Miller, our NIMAC librarian. And we are going to walk you through a lot of just basic information, make sure we all have the same kind of groundwork for the NIMAC and the terms and definitions associated with it. We'll also talk about some policy updates and information that may be interesting to you. We'll spend a little time talking about software that works with NIMAS files. And then we'll switch over and I'll do a demo in the system where I show you how to do a lot of the things that we talk about in the first part of the training. We have a lot to cover today. Alexa and I are going to kind of bounce back and forth as we go. We'll start again, like I said, with a PowerPoint where we go over a lot of terms and definitions and kind of the basics of how you work with the NIMAC, as well as some policy updates and then some system features for accessible media producers. And then we'll switch over to that live demo and I'll show you a lot of that stuff and how it works in the system. Before I get started, I do want to note today we do have our kind of traditional exit survey. If you've ever been to an NIMAC training before, you've hopefully completed that for us. It has some really simple feedback questions at the beginning, but it also has a second part where we're asking some questions about timely delivery of accessible formats. This is feedback that we're looking to incorporate into a case study that we're working on with our independent evaluator, True North. So if you could take an extra minute this week to think through your answers and give us a little additional feedback on timely delivery where you are, that would be so helpful. We would really appreciate it. Thanks. And with that, I will hand it over to Alexa.
Hi, folks. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. We are going to go ahead and get started on the NIMAC basics because we do have a lot to cover, as Liz noted. So, the NIMAC project was created by IDEA 2004, and we are the National Source File Repository for K-12 textbooks and instructional materials. We make our NIMAS files available for use in producing accessible formats for K-12 instructional materials. We have over 82,000 file sets from over 200 educational publishers, and all 50 states plus 6 outlying areas and the Department of Defense all have contracted with the NIMAC. And so what is NIMAS? NIMAS is the National Instructional Materials Accessibility Standard, and these are the files that are the file type that the NIMAC accepts. So that's all we can accept. It's an XML-based source file format, and they are designed for use in producing formats such as Braille, DAISY, EPUB, large print, audio, all those kinds of things. It is not intended for distribution directly to students. And it is not a byproduct of print or digital book production. It is its own thing. It takes a lot of time, effort, work on behalf of everybody involved to get the files tagged in appropriate XML format. And so how do we get these NIMAS files? So under IDEA 2004, the only mechanism to require NIMAS from the publisher is the book adoption contract or purchase agreement. There isn't a blanket requirement for publishers to submit files to the NIMAC. States and districts have been able to require this since 2006. And ideally, when NIMAS is included in contracts, a file will already be available when a need for a student is identified. So the types of materials we receive NIMAS for include textbooks, workbooks, supplementary readers, and some ancillary materials such as Blackline Masters. The generally exempt materials include pre-2006 titles, college textbooks, reference books. Generally, trade books are exempt unless they are produced for a reading program or that kind of thing. And teachers' editions are typically exempt, except when they include student-facing materials, like a lot of student handouts or things given to the student. And something new is we can also accept NIMAS files for some digital instructional materials. And so what is an authorized user of the NIMAC? So an authorized user is someone who has been designated by the state coordinator to have an account that provides full access to the NIMAC repository. They can search and download any of the files or assign them to you all, our registered accessible media producers. Authorized users are generally from within the educational structure of a state, such as at an IRC or a state Department of Education. And so what is an AMP account? That's what you guys have. So that your accounts allow you to download any file assigned to you by an authorized user of the NIMAC. AMP accounts are freely available to any organization or individual who can work with NIMAS to produce accessible formats. Uh, Accessible media producers do not have to be designated by a state coordinator, but that means they do have a more limited access to download files. And now, as an accessible media producer, you might be wondering, should I be an authorized user? So if you need direct access to download files from the system, it might be appropriate for you to have an authorized user account. To become an authorized user, like we just discussed, you need to be a part of the educational structure of the state or a nonprofit that qualifies as an authorized entity. If you feel like you fit this description, you can feel free to reach out to us at nimac@aph.org, and we can help you delve into that, figure out if we can get you set up with an authorized user account. And a little bit of a side note, the APH AMP directory. So the AMP information that you've provided to us at the NIMAC is not public. Authorized users can only access information about accessible media producers through their NIMAC accounts. If you are interested in sharing your information publicly about the services you offer, you can participate in the Accessible Media Producers directory. It's an online directory that's a free service of APH. We would put you in contact with our Louis folks. It's kind of attached to that project, and you could get listed in that. And I'll go ahead and drop those links in the chat.
Thanks, Alexa. It doesn't look like we have any questions. Does anyone have any kind of initial questions before we move along? Great. I'm not seeing anything. So I'll go ahead and take over here talking about your NIMAS file assignments. So as Alexa mentioned, as an accessible media producer, you are able to download files that are assigned to you by an authorized user. AMPs are a little different than authorized users in that they work across states. So as an AMP, you might work for multiple states, and that is perfectly fine. So but an authorized user is associated with their own state, and they would be assigning you those files for download. If you are working on a project for a state, especially a new state or district, and you need help locating an authorized user in that state to assign you the files, just let us know and we'll be happy to put you in touch with them. One thing that we do want to note is that you'll receive some automated email notifications from the NIMAC system. One of them is that you'll receive an email anytime you are assigned a file by an authorized user. You may also receive emails when files that you download are processed and ready to download as well. And in that email notification that you receive for that file assignment, it will also let you know what accessible format is being requested, as well as which user made that assignment. I do want to point out, and I think this will come up again in our training, that you are not required to produce only the accessible format that has been indicated in that file assignment. That is just a function of our system so that, folks can, if they want to include that information specifically, especially for Braille, they'll be able to indicate, digital Braille or embossed Braille when they make that assignment to you, but that doesn't limit you to only producing that format. Here on this screen is a screenshot of the type of automated email that you will receive when you are assigned a file. So it is addressed to you. It includes the basic title and identifier and ISBN information for the material, as well as the format that's been requested and the authorized user who submitted that request. We know that spam filters can be pretty aggressive these days. We actually have issues sometimes when you all reach out to us with our spam filters. So you may want to go ahead and add the no reply -NIMAC@overdrive.com email address to your whitelist or however in your system you can indicate so that those automated emails don't get filtered out because that can be an issue. And depending, if you work in a school district, especially, you may need to work with your IT administrator on that if you're having trouble getting those emails to come through in your inbox. If you are really having a lot of trouble, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll try to troubleshoot for you. Another thing I wanted to mention here while we're thinking about the types of formats you produce in the system is the way that you can indicate which formats you are capable of producing. So in your account, you will have a list of format capabilities to choose from. When we do the demo, I will also show you this list and where you can find it. It's under your account information, which is under user information. And this is just, again, provided as a convenience, so authorized users can select a format when they assign you the file. You're not restricted to producing just that format. Many agencies produce multiple formats from NIMAC files. And you are also able to update that list of format capabilities at any time. Here is a list of our current options. They include audio, DAISY, both digital and embossed Braille, differentiating between UEB and UEB with Nemeth, large print, PDF, EPUB, and other. This is a screenshot of your account, which I will show you later, where your format capabilities, the ones you've currently selected, are listed. And you'll see at the bottom there an update button where you can go and make changes to that list. All right, now just a really quick couple things on the policy update side. You may recall, if you've been with us for a little while, that beginning in 2023, we sent out some surveys and collected information on possible updates to the NIMAC specification. The NIMAC specification is defined in the IDEA regulations, so updating it does require regulatory or legislative action. This was originally intended to be an evolving specification, but as we all know, IDEA has not been reauthorized, and so this update has not occurred. So in 2023, we received a supplemental award from OSEP to kind of explore possible updates to the specification. We have compiled all of that input, which again includes the surveys we sent out, focus groups, which some of you may have participated in, as well as an in-person NIMAC convening that we held last May in Washington, D.C. We compiled that feedback into a report that we provided to the department in December 2024. And the department may choose to initiate a formal process to update the specification. If they do, we will, of course, keep you updated on that. We are also using input that we received to help work on new resources for our users, best practices for our publishers, and NIMAC conversion vendors. We really want to continue to improve NIMAC as much as we can, even if we don't have formal updates to the specification. Two of the updates that we discussed at length and were included in the report that I think are most critical really are making MathML tagging mandatory. Right now it is something that is optional. So it is optional to tag math with MathML. as well as image descriptions. Right now, alt text or image descriptions are optional, not required for NIMAS, and we do recommend that they be required going forward. So again, we'll keep you updated on anything that we do hear back from the department with regard to NIMAS spec updates. All right, does anyone have any questions about that? If not, I'll hand it back over to Alexa.
All right, I am not seeing anything in the chat, so we'll keep plugging. So we're going to talk a little bit about system features, and the first one we're going to talk about is the Watchlist service, which is very exciting for me. That's kind of my purview. So the Watchlist service, if you are unfamiliar with it, is the service that NIMAC provides. If a file you need is not available in the NIMAC, you probably won't know whether it should or should not be there. You can add the ISBN to your watch list in the system, and we will research the item for you and try to get NIMAS for it if it's within scope for the project. If it's already in production, which is sometimes the case, especially if like it's needed for the next school year, we could be able to expedite it for you, talking to the publisher and the conversion vendor. We might be able to get that a little sooner, but maybe not, sometimes not. If the file is outside of scope, we can research other accessibility alternatives and provide that information to you as well. And then when the watchlist file is available in the NIMAC, you will receive a system-generated email to let you know. And so we're going to change gears a little bit here. Liz mentioned MathML earlier. And so you may have been wondering what MathML is. You may not have encountered that yet. But MathML is an optional XML markup for math and scientific notation. And the benefit is that when it's used, it can automatically generate Braille. And in the past, math was provided as images, but the MathML has made it so that we can generate Braille from it. And so we're seeing like an uptick in files with MathML being included. So that's great. We really appreciate it. But not all software supports MathML. And so if you have found that your software doesn't support MathML, what we have is the No MathML download. And you can choose that. Liz will show you a little bit more about that during the demo, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at a couple screenshots where you can see if the file you have or will be downloading contains MathML. So the NIMAC system will show a no MathML download option only if MathML is present in the file. So it's unlikely that like a little supplementary reader or something will have MathML included in it. There is an easy way to know whether the file contains MathML, and that is the download option. So when you go to download a file, you can see here the screenshot that says full download, no MathML, and XML download. And then there are two other ways you can see MathML in the system record down here in the bottom right-hand corner. And then if you already have the XML file downloaded, and maybe you downloaded it a while ago, you just happened upon it or reopened it, and you can see when you open the XML file in the header here that MathML is mentioned in this declaration. And so we will pause there. Does anybody have any questions about any of that?
Great. I think generally, if folks are producing Braille, then hopefully you are able to benefit from MathML. We know some Braille software plays with it better than others, and we're always happy to help if you're having issues with using a NIMAS file with MathML in your Braille software. We tend to recommend that folks utilize Braille Blaster as an intermediary translation step, especially if you're using Braille 2000 or if you have Duxbury, but you aren't utilizing NimPro, which is their tool that is built to ingest MathML specifically. So again, don't hesitate to reach out if you're having any issues with that. But we hope folks are benefiting from the math tagging because it should make your lives a lot easier, ideally. So a little more about working with NIMAS files. We also wanted to mention that there is a free EPUB conversion tool as well. The NIMAC has been working with the DAISY consortium to help kind of test their NIMAS to EPUB conversion tool, and it is ready for NIMAC users to test. I think Alexa is including in the chat the link to download the most recent version if you haven't already taken a look at it. It's a fairly simple conversion process. When you go in to convert, there is a lengthy list of scripts to choose from. We want you to use the DTBook to EPUB script. Then select the NIMAS XML file you want to convert. You do have to have the NIMAS file unzipped and be able to select just the XML file. You want to select no validation. And then you want to check yes to the fact that you're inputting NIMAS into the tool, and then you just run the conversion. And we do also have a brief how-to video that demonstrates this process. We encourage you to take a look at that if you're going to try out this tool. And most important of all, we would really love your feedback on it. If you are someone who converts digital formats for students and you're taking a look at the EPUB conversion pipeline, please let us know, good, bad. We've tested it with a multitude of different files, files with math, files without, files big, files small. Generally speaking, we've been pretty pleased with the results, but there are always kind of odd things that can come up with files, especially larger textbook files that may hang up the conversion tool. So, please, if you have anything to share with us, don't hesitate to reach out. It's nimac@aph.org, and we would love to chat with you, possibly even troubleshoot with you. I also wanted to mention quickly that we are continuing to offer our Braille user groups. We have two. They were begun in 2023, one to support Braille 2000 users, one to support Duxbury users. These are quarterly virtual meetings. They're facilitated by transcribers. So I'm there. I'm chiming in as is helpful and, providing information about NIMAS and the NIMAC when there are updates on our side. But mostly it's a conversation with and among transcribers about techniques for utilizing NIMAS, strategies for approaching different challenging transcribing scenarios. So we do encourage you all to check those out if you haven't already. And again, you can reach out to us at the NIMAC email address, and I'll be happy to send you more information about that. I also wanted to show here quickly, this is our landing page for our website. We are currently in the process of a website refresh, but don't worry, the homepage is going to look quite similar to what it is now. It'll be a little different, but it'll be pretty similar. You'll know you're in the right place. You'll still know you're in the right place. And I circled at the top, we have a whole section that's devoted to resources for our accessible media producers. So please do check that out if you haven't already. And now I'll pause once more, just in case there are any questions before I switch over to our demo. I don't think I've seen any in the chat. You're also welcome to unmute if you have a question you'd like to ask aloud. Okay. Well, with that, I'm gonna switch gears here, and I'll reshare my screen, and we will take a look at the NIMAC system. All right, so this is the landing page, not for our informational site, but if you come directly to nimac.overdrive.com. So anytime you're on our site, if you click our logo, it'll take you here. I am already logged in, so I am going to log back out and log into our AMP account so I can show you what that looks like. This is your page where you'll enter your credentials. I do want to mention that, in a lot of places, your username when you log into a website is your email address. That is not the case for the NIMAC. You have your own NIMAC username. And if you ever misplace your credentials or you forget it, just reach out to us. We'll be happy to give that to you, and we can reset your password as well. When you log in as an accessible media producer, this is the screen that you'll see first, your title assignments page. And we will come back to this. I do want to start by showing you where your user information is. So up at the top right, you'll have a page that says My Account. On the left side, you'll see your basic contact information. And then on the right side, you'll see your organization's information. And then you will also see your format capabilities list, like I mentioned earlier. At the bottom of that list, there is a button that says Update. So, right now, this account has all of the format capabilities selected, but say, I've stopped offering embossed Braille. You can go to this list. You hold down Control because you're editing that list, and select or deselect the items that you no longer want listed. And then you click Save Changes. Quick and easy. If you have updates to your contact information or your organization's information, those you will need to send to us, and we will make those updates on our end, and keep that information tidy in the system. The other thing I wanted to show you is your sub-user page. So for AMP accounts, you are more than welcome to have multiple sub-users on your account. This is, I think, especially useful for larger organizations, prison Braille programs, or maybe even a school district that has an AMP account and they have multiple Braillists or TVIs or accessible media producers within their district. So it's quick and easy to add sub-users. You just click Add User, enter the first and last name. Alexa, I will add you here on mine, as well as the email address. And that's all you need. And then those folks will have access to the account. They'll be able to download files that are in your file queue. So that can be really, really useful if you have several people on your team that need access. The next thing I wanted to show you is our screen for publisher contact information. We do make this available to you. So if you are in a situation where you have a book, and maybe you're noticing that it doesn't appear to be lining up with the print book you have, your NIMAS file, maybe there's like a section missing, or something along those lines. You do have the publisher contact information here, and you're welcome to reach out to them to ask about that. We also, kind of routinely field questions about NIMAS files, particularly for things where maybe the version you need is a different printing than the one that's in the NIMAC, or there's some sort of mismatch or some concern that you have. So you're also welcome to send those questions to us, and we can work with you and the publisher on that as well. But you do have their contact information here too. I also did want to show you quickly your download report. So say you are interested in looking back at your download history. It's a quick and easy way to do that. There is one report here in the system for you. You can organize it either by total downloads or unique by title. Enter your date parameters. Say you want to look at last school year or last 5 years, what have you. And then you can export that report to a CSV file and kind of quickly look through that Excel spreadsheet. And I think that's especially helpful. We work in the system all of the time, but I would say anytime we're working with large sets of files, when we're reviewing them for a publisher, we almost always export the metadata to a spreadsheet. It's just easier. You can sort it, you can filter it. It's just easier to look at all around, I think. I also wanted to mention the watch list. This was something Alexa talked about during the presentation, and it is something that she manages. So if you've ever submitted a watch list request to us, you have sent that to her. This is a really easy process. This is for, like she said, maybe you have an ISBN, you're not finding it in the system. Maybe even you have an ISBN that you suspect is a kit or bundle ISBN, but you don't have the ISBN for the print book that you need. You can enter your ISBN here and just I'll make it different than this, and then enter in the memo field. It's helpful if you do have any kind of basic information about the book, specifically title, copyright year, and publisher. It's great if you can include that as well. Not required at all, but if you have it, that's very helpful. And then you can hit create. And you'll see a message pop up that says you successfully created a new watch list item. You can see that item here. That sends a message to us that we need to go and research that item and either see if we do already have it in the system under a different ISBN, or if possible, it's something that we can reach out to a publisher and obtain a file for. As Alexa mentioned, NIMAC is not a byproduct of the publishing production process. So it can take 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes longer, to get a NIMAC file when we don't already have it in the system. So managing expectations can be important. And we always encourage folks, if you are getting orders in for accessible formats for next school year, to go in and check the NIMAC system as early as possible to make sure that we have those files on hand, so that if we don't, we can get them from the publisher as quickly as possible. Now let's go back to our title assignments page and take a look at that. So again, this is where you land when you first log in. There are 2 tabs here. You have your active queue and your completed queue. You don't have to use the system that way, but you're more than welcome to do so, especially, if you have a lot of files. Maybe you downloaded half of them, or you've already finished working on half of them and you want to just move them over. You can move to completed. And then that keeps your active queue tidier. And you can kind of also quickly see here which items you've completed. There's also always these options to generate reports from your queue. So again, those would be exporting to CSV files or Excel files that you can open up and take a look at if that's easier for you. You can see here under title assignments, your title identifier and publisher, as well as the format that was requested by the authorized user, whose information you also have, as well as the date assigned. And then when you do download the file, that will also show up here. And we'll go ahead and demonstrate that now so that you can see. From this active queue, you can add this file to your downloads. And the screen that pops up here has a couple components. One is one that Alexa showed earlier, where if the file contains math tagging, you'll have the option to download it without that tagging, and instead there will be all of the images for that math. Or if you do want the math tagging, you can just do the full download. That will include both the tagging as well as the images. Or if you don't need images at all, you can just do the XML download. And that is a much smaller file most of the time because it doesn't include images. The second piece on your screen here is the limitation of use agreement. This is identical to what you signed when you first got your Accessible Media Producer account with the NIMAC. There's nothing different here, but you do agree to accept it and abide by it every time you download a file from the NIMAC. So we'll make our selection for our download, and then we'll go ahead and hit that I agree to abide by the NIMAC Lua button at the bottom. Now at the top of your screen here, you'll see that your download request was submitted and it's being processed. This takes us up to our My Downloads page, which is where you go to see the files that you have already downloaded. Now, you can set up your account so that you receive an email notification when the requested file is ready for download, or you can toggle this off if that is something that's irritating to you. I don't have that turned on because I download so many files. That would be quite irritating for me. But if it's something where, you're downloading files, but then you're switching gears and doing something else, it might be helpful to you to get that email notification when your file's ready to go. Because your NIMAC files, it can take a few minutes sometimes to download, especially depending on both your internet connection as well as the file size, how many images there are in the file. Right now, you can see in the right column here actions that the file is pending. If you refresh your screen, if it's a large file, it will switch to processing, which means that it's currently in the process of being able to be downloaded. And then when it is finally ready, you'll have the buttons here, the download button, as well as the delete button. I will say one thing to note here is something that is built into our system is a fingerprinting and watermarking process that happens every time you download an IMIS file. So that is part of what is occurring when that file is being processed for download. All NIMIS files that you download are associated with that digital rights management to your account. That's why it's very important for us to have current and accurate information about all of our account holders as well. But that's just part of the process when you're downloading a file. I also wanted to show a new feature here. I think we added this last year, and some folks have started using it, which is wonderful. We love getting feedback, but there's right below your download option, there is a file quality feedback button. Now, we really encourage folks to use this, after you've downloaded the file, say you open it up, maybe you're having trouble opening it in your software, or you open it and you kind of quickly realize, oh, these images are not going to enlarge well for my large print process. I need to provide feedback on that. You click this button here, and this form does auto-populate with the basic information about the file that you're submitting your feedback about. As you can see at the top, the title and identifier and the type of download. This is important when you're talking about math files. We like to know if you downloaded with or without MathML. And then we have several fields for you to complete. The first is a general feedback field. The second is asking what format you're trying to produce. The third, which is required, is to indicate what conversion software you're using. This is really important when we're troubleshooting issues. And then the fourth field may or may not be relevant, but especially when we're looking at textbooks, it can be helpful if the problem that you're noticing is that you think content is missing or there's a mismatch between your print book and the file in the system. If you go and look at your print book and find the printing number on the copyright page of the book and provide that to us, that can help us kind of quickly pinpoint the issue. And if it is possible, the NIMAC can't require publishers to submit new printings to us in the same way that, in general, the only way that that publishers are required to submit NIMAs to us is through that print book adoption contract or purchase agreement. But what we can do is in the event that you're working with a different printing, we can reach out to the publisher and ask, would they be willing to provide a PDF? Would they be willing to provide any detailed information? Sometimes they have information about the printing differences, especially if they're minor, just so that you have that to accompany you on your accessible format production process. So, please don't hesitate to let us know if you are encountering that issue, and we'll do our best to help. Again, and then at the bottom of this form here, you just hit submit. That sends an automatic email to the NIMAC inbox, and we'll get back to you within a business day and do our best to troubleshoot for you. All right. And then finally, I did also want to show you just basically how to search in the NIMAC system. So like I said, whenever you click this logo in the upper left-hand corner, it'll take you to your basic landing page. You're able to search the NIMAC when you are not logged in because the NIMAC is a public search, but you are also able to search while you're logged in. So it doesn't matter either way, you can do either. We of course always encourage folks to search by ISBN without the hyphens if you do have it. But we do know sometimes you may not, or maybe you're doing an entire series or program for a school or district and you actually need several files. It is possible to search that way. So let's go here. We'll search by a series or program. You can search like the quoted search, which is very helpful if you do have that specific series or program information. And then on this screen here, you'll be able to see your search results. Again, if their files have already been assigned to you, you will also have buttons here that allow you to download them. If they have not, then you will have to reach out to an authorized user in order for them to assign you the files, but you are able to search the full system while you're logged in. You can use our search filters along the left side of your screen to help narrow it down to, a specific grade level, a specific language, copyright year. I think those are some of the primary ones that folks utilize to kind of pinpoint a specific set of books that they may need. And you are always able to export your search results as well. This can come in really handy, especially if you do have an order or something that you need to do, particularly for a school district. You can export your search results and then you'll kind of quickly have that list of ISBNs you can reach out to an authorized user about. So it's kind of a quick and easy way to utilize the search in the system. I think that is everything that I wanted to demo for you. Does anyone have any questions?
I put one in the chat box. If I must only be an AMP because I don't have the ability to download. So how do I find out who my authorized user is?
Yeah, so if you can send us an email and let us know what state you're in, we'll connect you directly with your authorized user and then they'll be able to help you with that.
So if I'm not an authorized user, can I submit things on the watch list?
You can, yes. Yes, AMPs can submit watch list requests, yes.
Okay. Because I just tried to submit one. And I put the ISBN number and the author's name. And when I hit create, if I scroll down, it says not submitted to NIMAC. I don't know if I'm just in maybe like a queue until someone sees it or.
So there are a couple possibilities. It could be, so you can only submit the 13-digit string in the watch list. Is that right, Alexa? Just the 13-digit, I think.
You can do the 13 or the 10.
Or you can do the 10. Okay. So if there's maybe a typo or maybe you're missing that, the system does look specifically for that either 13 or 10-digit string. It could also be that the file's actually already in the system. It won't let you submit a watch list request for anything that is already in the system. So it could be one of those two things. But if you suspect it's not, please include that in your email to us and we'll investigate it further.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions? All right, great. Well, thank you all so much for being here this afternoon. I'll go ahead and stop sharing. We really appreciate your time. If you do think of questions after the fact, don't hesitate to reach out. And Alexa is going to include our exit survey link in the chat again. It'll be open for a couple of days because, like I said, it has our regular how did we do exit survey questions, but it also has some additional questions about timely delivery of accessible formats. We'd really love more information about timely delivery in your state or district. So if you could take a moment to fill that out, that would be great. And again, we really appreciate your time. This has been recorded and it will be posted on our website, and we will send that information out to you as soon as it is available. Thank you all.
Will the PowerPoint be available as well?
Yes, we'll post the slides as well. Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. All right. Thank you all. Have a great afternoon.